Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show. Happy Saturday. This is Sipping Saturday, but I'll tell you what, it's going to be a little bit different today. We are not going out into the studio today. We're not going to open the safe. We're probably not going to have tequila and bourbon, but man, we're going to talk about something very important for the trades. And as you see, I have a special guest in here. If y'all have had your head buried in the sand or under a pillow, or maybe you've been under a house for too long, Sound of Freedom is a movie that's out right now. Matt Osborne was actually in it. Matt Osborne is the president and COO of Operation Underground Railroad. Matt, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I've been looking forward to this for a long time. This is great.
We've been talking about this for a long time, guys. So, and we'll tell some stories about that. We are doing donations today, which is something we've never done. There's a link up top. You can go in and click it. Man, we just put out a short video the other day telling people about what we're going to do. I think we've already raised $2,000 over there.
Wow, fantastic.
And we just got started this morning. We're up to 130. Guys, this is neat because when I first, I'll tell you what, first, tell everybody who you are, what you do, how you got started. Let's start there. That way I just don't keep talking about you.
No, well, great. Well, thank you so much. So I was actually blessed to serve our country for 12 years with the CIA and U.S. Department of State. I worked in Spain and Venezuela and Mexico, issues related to terrorism against the homeland. This was about, right after the terrorist attacks of September 11th, 2001. Hard to believe now for our kids, that's just in their history books, right? But remember like it's yesterday. And then I worked organized crime, drug trafficking, and this thing, as you know, Roger, that I had never heard of in 2006 called human trafficking. I admit I thought it was Julia Roberts' Pretty Woman, where they told those lies that she determined when and how much and with who, not talking about a trafficker, a pimp, a predator being, involved there. And so then I realized this is something that I need to think about: human trafficking, people being sold as slaves. So in the year 2013, my friend from graduate school, Tim Ballard, who was with the CIA briefly and then U.S. Department of Homeland Security, he said, I want you to join me in Operation Underground Railroad. Come help empower governments around the world to fight this crime. And look, he was the brave one. I said, wait a sec, Tim, Uncle Sam pays me faithfully twice a month. I have a government pension waiting for me in just 6 years if I stick it out. And I have access to government health care if I retire and not resign from the government. You want me to give all that up and join an organization where I only get paid if the donations come in? He said, yes, that's exactly what I want. So I joined him in 2014. I've led his undercover operations. We've done so much in the U.S. and around the world that I know we can talk about during this show. But I'm just grateful to be here because there is absolutely something that each one of us can do to fight child exploitation, human trafficking, and I know we're going to get into that during this time.
Man, we're going to get into a lot of it. It's really neat because, and guys, if you don't know who I am, what I'm doing, we did a podcast interview earlier, and I actually got to sit and talk with Matt. Man, we went over an hour, went longer than I should have, but it was so good, and there's so much great information there. But you literally have gone into these countries and helped rescue people that are human trafficked.
Right.
And I got to see that at one of the first presentations I ever saw you do. To me, I was at Master Networks Connect one year, and I saw your presentation. And I mean, during it, I'm pulling out my phone, I'm doing this. And I remember Julie saying, what are you doing? I said, I just made a donation. She said, how much you done? I said, well, more than we can afford, but it's okay. We'll make it back. And we did. But the neat thing about it is, man, this is amazing because human trafficking is something that it's going on around the world.
Yes, that's right.
And when I started learning about Operation Underground Railroad, the United States is the biggest producer and consumer of child pornography. Is what it used to be. What is it now?
Child sex abuse material. That's what we used to call child pornography. Number one. We like to be number one in a lot of things. We don't want to be number one in that. That's bad.
Yeah, that is not. And I'm losing my internet over here, so I'm good. I'm gonna close that one out, see if that helps. But here's the deal, and I want to jump into the comments and say hello to some people real quick. And there we go. I'll start saying my computer's not doing very good. Colton says, can't wait. Thank you for Roger for exposing this and offering solutions.
Yes.
Stephen Tran is in the house. Thank you, sir. Thanks for being part of everything you do. Randy's in here. 3 minutes to go. Brett Edwards, good morning. Gil Garcia, hello, everyone. Good morning and afternoon to all. Joseph Lalibert, welcome back to the show. Good to see you. Mike Jr., morning. How are you, man? Look, it's great to see a lot of tradespeople in here because that's really what we've talked about. And the reason I want to do this, tradespeople, when we walk into houses, we get to see everything.
Yeah. And one of the comments real quick, someone said a human trafficker would never call a plumber. And I know he said LOL. Actually, as you know, plumbers, vital tradespeople, they will always come in. They will call. But what the human trafficker won't even think is this plumber's even going to be paying attention to what's going on in this
plumber's
house.
going to realize what's happening here.
Exactly.
And I like that because we've talked about that. Nobody would ever expect. And I mean, when y'all go overseas, and I hate to say this, but he said this in a video a while ago, we pose as American because that's the biggest buyer of human trafficking around the world.
That's right.
Is that sad, y'all? Anyway, Mike Jr., good to see you in here. Machiavelli, human traffickers aren't going to call a plumber. Well, yes, they are. They are for
unless they're going to fix everything themselves, which they don't. No, but that's a good point. I know we'll talk about it too. But you remember a few years ago and you brought this point up on your podcast. Those 3 women held, I think it was Cleveland, Ohio, for 3 years. How many tradespeople had gone into that house over that 3-year period? Not blaming them, but meaning they most likely had a chance to see something.
And you never know. But I mean, think about it. If the cat jumps up on the sink and breaks the handle, well, they need a new kitchen faucet. And I don't know, these guys kind of weren't the smartest people in the world. They needed to call somebody. Raymond Burgos says, yes, a good morning to all. Amber says, love this passion project. My View 2 stuff says, I thought I saw him in it. It was so funny because look, and it was quick. You had your 3 seconds.
You heard my joke, right?
No, I did.
They're putting me up for an Oscar in the category of best supporting actor in a 3-second role.
See, you gotta love that. And y'all, just in case you watch the Oscars, they give that award out early that morning sometime. No, it was neat though, because to get and see you, to get to see you, and then waiting for the credits to go by. I mean, there were a million credits.
And those angel investors too.
Oh my gosh, that was the neatest part. Yes. I mean, to watch all that go by, and I've got chills again. If you have not seen The Sound of Freedom, get out and see it, and get out and see it quickly. It's a limited release, and I didn't even know that until you said that a while ago. Explain to everybody what a limited release is and how long you think they've got to actually see this in the theater.
So it really was low budget in terms of promotional materials, promotional efforts. And again, I think some people know this was originally a Fox studio production back in 2018, 2019. Fox was then purchased by Disney, and we won't go into it too much unless your viewers want to.
We're going to go into it a little bit.
Disney did not want this movie out. Hollywood did not want this movie out. And again, I'm not, what is it? I'm just going to sit back and say, in the first weekend, it beat Disney's Indiana Jones in the box office, #1.
Okay, so, and this is somebody I told you about earlier, clearing the chamber. So we will talk about it a little bit.
Oh yes.
This is Jara Hutchins. How are you?
Hi, Jara.
Says can't wait to watch the replay on this. Won't be able to watch it because she's in the drill. She's in the reserves. So excited to have such an amazing guest. Been wanting to meet him, and will be at his, and I'm sure, event with the Dallas Jewish Conservatives.
Tuesday, July 25th.
End of the month. Jara, I've already talked to Matt.
Yes,
I'm going to send you his information and give him your information. Y'all are going to be able to connect. If you're still in here, just give me a heck yeah, and I will know. But yeah, I pulled up your post on YouTube, showed him what you did, or on Facebook, showed him what you did taking, I don't remember her name, 1,000 Nowheres or Everywheres, the book. And he's like, yeah, Elizabeth Carnegie.
Liz
in the
Carnegie.
House.
We love Liz. Good to see you again.
Absolutely. Jump back up here. Raymond says, yes, hello to all. Good to see you in here. Jake Max says, this is awesome. Always watching your videos and I guess recording. Passion project. Yes. Going to trade school for plumbing in a month. Who is Matt? So, I saw this up here before, so I know he's already answered it, but I'm going to tell you how I met Matt. I was literally at Master Networks Connect, and it was probably 3 years ago, maybe more. And he got up and he's, look, I'm going to show y'all this little clip. And it's you and Tim and a whole team going into third world countries. And, you can talk about it as much as you want, but I'm watching it, and these guys are going in and rescuing. And this is not children. This is humans. This is women from Venezuela.
The Venezuelan women who were in Port-au-Prince, Haiti, in a brothel. In
Oh
Port-au-Prince.
man. And it's just like you watch this. And I remember at the event that I met you at, they had already filmed this or were filming this at the very time, the first time, because you were talking about the little girl. And you said during the movie, during the filming, she realized what it was about.
Yes. Yeah. In Sound of Freedom.
Oh
Yeah.
man.
I think we can tell that story.
Yeah.
Real quick.
Yeah. Go right ahead.
So again, I hope everyone has seen Sound of Freedom. And earlier we talked about the budget that was only spent on just a 2-week release. Well, thanks to you, thanks to everyone across the country who's made this #1. They are going to extend it a couple of weeks longer. Well, as those of you who've seen it know, the child acting probably was the most powerful, right? The girl, her brother, some of the other kids. Well, the girl Rocio, who we're looking for throughout the movie, she was not told. None of the kids were told during the acting and on set that this was human trafficking. They just said, hey, just so you know, it's a movie about adults who do bad things to kids. That's why some of these these scenes are kind of rough. But they didn't tell her. Well, the scene, if some of you seen the movie where, and again, it's not graphic, it's very tastefully done. She's implied she's sitting on the bed, and the Westerner comes in with his alcohol, and you kind of know what's about to happen. The next scene it cuts to where she's in the bathtub and she's crying, trying to clean herself, and she's crying. Well, what had happened that day was the woman who was taking care of the kids on set had her off day. So there's a substitute there who did not know that we were not telling the kids what it was. And she basically said to the girl, now, as you are going to film this scene, remember, you've just been raped essentially by this guy. And she was horrified. Those were actually real tears during that scene. And that's why I think what made it so powerful.
That's tough. But I saw that and made a donation, which is what I'm asking y'all to do. There's a link up top. Jump in there. That goes directly to Operation Underground Railroad. Elizabeth Carney set that up. Has done it in the past, knew how to do it. And she's like, yeah, we can have a link real quick. So really, really neat stuff. But to get to see that story, I'm literally thinking, look, tradespeople walk in houses every day. What can tradespeople do to help put an end to this? And it's just being aware, looking, if something doesn't look right, sound right, whatever it is, you've got to understand that. Congratulations, new trade job. Good. Congratulations. So somebody got a new job. I like that. Juan says, thanks. Congratulations, Juan. Good for you. Michael Sakaris, how are you? Good to see you in here. Centrotherm, a great product. I'm actually going to be going to Miami to do some stuff with them here pretty soon. And Raymond says trade school is cool. Trade school is great, but I want y'all to think about this. Trade school, we have an opportunity to make a good living. And, a lot of trades charge a lot of money. We make good money. We get to take good care of our family. And I remember whenever I was going to school to get my HVAC certification, there's an instructor there they called the professor. He was a professor, a real professor, extremely smart, brilliant guy. And he stepped into our class one day because our instructor was out. And he stepped in. He said, what are y'all supposed to learn today? And one of the guys says, we're supposed to learn boiling points of different refrigerants. He says, well, you know what? Tony can teach all that later. He says, I'm going to teach y'all about taking care of people. Yeah. And he says, a lot of you are going to get jobs making really good money. He says, I want you to remember this. There are people in this world that can afford to pay you what you charge, so you can afford to take care of people who can't afford to pay you what you charge. Nice. And that has always stuck with me. And I mean, literally when he said it, now I'm the oldest guy in the room at the time. I'm literally like, whoa, stop. Repeat that. And I want you guys quit talking, quit playing in your books, quit playing on your phones, and listen to this, because this is going to teach you something important. And we do have an opportunity to help other people, to help do things. And a lot of times it's just paying attention, seeing what's going on, and thinking about things. So anybody in the trades, to me, needs to learn about this. But you had a great job before you started doing this. Yeah. And I know that sounded all wrong. You've got a better job now. You're in the CIA. You were
right. And I loved it.
Man.
Loved the job. And I worked for a Republican. I worked for a Democrat, George W. Bush, Barack Obama. For me, I was just for national security. But it was, as I said earlier, I mean, it was faithful. I did not doubt that paycheck was coming every 2 weeks, twice a month. And to join an organization where I only got paid where the donations came in, but there was just something about this cause to be able to use everything that the skills I had learned in the CIA. Now, I'm not as cool as Liam Neeson, right? I don't want to burst anyone's bubble here, but it was neat to have those skills to then be able to use them to saving children. And we've been so blessed with donations to be able to grow this organization. And we can talk later, but I told you about the quality of the women and men who now lead Operation Underground Railroad Regions, Homeland Security, FBI, Department of Justice. We really have built out an amazing unit. And the Sound of Freedom talked about the origin story of Operation Underground Railroad, and that still happens today. Last week, we did an operation in Central America with Homeland Security, actually as stuff you saw in the movie, and we rescued 20 kids. So this work keeps going every single day.
Okay, now I'm gonna bust a myth. Something you just said. You lied. Okay, you did. I'm gonna tell you lied. Said you're not as cool as Liam Neeson. Okay, Liam Neeson is an actor. You've gone into these countries and done this. That I mean, the video I saw, that was real.
That's all, yeah.
Because I didn't before the Sound of Freedom, I saw clips where y'all actually went in, and I've seen 2 different ones.
Yeah.
And guys, it's when I tell y'all, and I'm going to jump back in the commentary for just a second, a couple that I want to hit. But when I tell y'all, you wouldn't believe the things that there's a guy, and as soon as I start talking, he knows what I'm talking about because we've talked about it twice now. When I saw this, I think it was the second video, not the first one. But when I saw the second video, they start off talking about this guy who makes about, or what was making about $10 an hour.
Right.
And he literally saved, I mean, think about that. That's 20 grand a year, $20,000. That's it. And he saves up his money over the course of a year or 2 to go to
Cartagena, Colombia
to have sex with like a 14-year-old
yep.
girl, boy, whatever. I don't even remember that part.
Yeah.
At that point, I'm thinking, wait, this is his vacation. This is what he lives his life for. This is my why. Guys, there's some people out there that are messed up. And to hear that the United States is the #1 producer and consumer of this blows my mind. Tell a little bit about that if you want to. What kind of people do this?
Yeah, it's going to be coming out in the movie Operation Triple Take, which is the true life story behind the Sound of Freedom. Angel Studios is going to put that out in the months to come. I did see one of Liz Carnegie had posted that right now on Amazon Prime, Operation Tucson is available to learn a little bit more about the OUR story. But this person you talked about, his name is Dennis DeJesus, and Homeland Security was tracking him because, as you mentioned, he would go down to Cartagena. And again, we can get into details or not, but it was actually 3 14, 15-year-old girls. He'd want them together, and he would exploit them every single year for about 3 years. He would go down. Think about saving your money to do that. Fortunately, Homeland Security tracked him. They set up a sting operation to get him. That then opened up the doors for us to, as an Operation Underground Railroad, to collaborate with Colombians on 3 operations. That's why Triple Take. Cartagena, that Tim led. Medellin, that was our undercover operator, codenamed Batman. In the movie, if you see, that's Vampiro, the Bill Camp character. And then I was fortunate to lead the one in Armenia, Colombia. We rescued 123 trafficking victims in a 1-hour time period. 55 of them were confirmed minors. Again, the one island rescue, that was now what was featured in Sound of Freedom. But an Operation Triple Take in the next month or 2, Angel Studios will be putting out, and everyone can see that whole operation.
And look, I love Angel Studios. Love what they've done. I'm not going to say anything bad about Disney or bad about Netflix or anybody that held onto this and wouldn't release it. They've got their reasons. I'm sure it sounded really good. It's good that Disney didn't want to release it. Angel Studios buys it and releases it. The same weekend, Disney released Indiana Jones, and Sound of Freedom 1. Pretty neat. Jake Mack says recently saw the Jordan Peterson episode about the movie.
That was big. It was very popular, that Peter.
And now this is on my favorite plumber's channel. God bless you both for doing something. The media, Hollywood, are trying to stop this movie.
That is true.
And they are. Look, this is not a feel-good movie. And that's what they want to release. They want you to feel happy and excited when you walk out of the theater. You're happy you spent your money. You're happy you gave them your money. You're happy and you're going to come back and give it again. you're not going to feel happy when you walk out of this theater. If you do, come see me because I got something for you. Here's the thing. This is real, though.
Right.
This is, and I knew it walking in, and most people are going to know walking in what this is all about. So, living in Omaha, good morning. Michael Hirsch, my business partner down at Rescue Air, says, love this. Thank you for talking about this. This is neat stuff. Real big with Folds of Honor. We've got a lot of different people and companies and organizations we deal with. This is something that's been a big deal to me for a long time. So glad I get to do it. Raymond Burgos says, yeah, it would be money in your pocket with the fourth stimulus check. Less than a month if Congress stops rolling their eyes at the people. Braden Croft says, good morning. I'm really excited to hear more about how I can help human trafficking prevention in my little area in Idaho.
It happens everywhere.
And yeah, we talked about that a while ago. It's not just Dallas, Texas.
Right.
It's not just LA. It's not just New York.
Right.
And
this is the
Moscow, Idaho.
Oh, it is, yeah. And this is the fastest growing criminal enterprise in the world, as you heard in the movie. It's eclipsed the illegal arms trade. It will soon eclipse the drug trade. And why is that, right? How many times can you sell a bag of cocaine? The Jim Caviezel character says one time. How many times can you sell a human being over and over again? And so, talking to, with Braden, it's in Idaho, anywhere in the United States, rural, and we can talk more about it too. But unfortunately, there are all sorts of reasons. It's the over-sexualization of our culture, over-objectification of women, pornography addictions that have even gotten worse during COVID. It's all of this that leads to demand. But what you and I talked about on your podcast, it's really the men in a lot of ways need to rally to this cause. It can't just be the women who lead this fight. We have to look at our role as creating demand. And as I mentioned, look, I don't have some halo on my head. I wish someone would have told me when I was 18 years old, 25 years old. I went to a couple bachelor parties at strip clubs. I'm embarrassed now. I can't change the past, but I can change the future. But all of us knowing together that, again, these are victims. These aren't volunteers. This is trafficking. This isn't prostitution. I think that's going to go a long way for all of us rallying to eventually defeat this and end this. And that's what we're hoping. And we've seen now, just since July 3rd, Sound of Freedom, how many people have now come to this cause, had their eyes open, and can potentially do something about it?
You think about that with everything going on, with everything happening. I mean, we isolated ourselves from people. We put people in front of their computers. Yeah. Your meetings were in a computer. Your work was in a computer. Everything you did was right here, and it is. And look, I'm just like you. I went to the bachelor parties. I went to the strip clubs. And now it's like, I don't want to go there. Right. And, we made a comment in there a while ago about you look at, in even just pictures you see on the internet, that are like getting close to borderline, shouldn't be on the internet.
Right.
And you look at the person's face and it's like, they look sad. And Kenny Chesney's got a song about that. He's looking at some lady on a billboard or something, says, wonder if she's photoshopped or are her eyes really that lonely? And I mean, when you walk into houses and you see kids like that, that's a sign. That's a sign that, look, something doesn't look right here. It's a trip.
Right. And you need to pay attention to that too, as we mentioned. And I always say, I talk to all different groups. I'm like, I don't care if you call it a hunch, a sixth sense, a sick feeling, the Holy Spirit, the hair standing out in the back of your neck. Pay attention to that. Don't just dismiss that. And, you mentioned the opportunity. You might see people hanging around the house. Engage with them. Just say, hi, how are you? And you can tell if it's normal, hey, how you doing? Or if there's something wrong. They're not maintaining eye contact, or the owner of the house is answering questions for them, or is not letting you engage with them. I think that's something to look at. And then one thing, you talk about the Kenny Chesney song, and this is something that I take to heart as well when I go talking in schools to young men, normally talking about pornography. Pornography has just exploded in our society. I mean, I said, look, I'm not a bad kid, but when I was their age, you had to work to see pornography. You had to find someone who was over 18 to go into 7-Eleven to get that magazine where it just said Playboy, or maybe your uncle. I'm just like, I'm not throwing you on the bus, uncle, but maybe in his bedroom, his drawer or something, you find it. Well, where it's all here today, right? It's cell phones now. It's everywhere. Kids can't avoid pornography. But what I tell everyone, adult and child alike, you never know if you're watching pornography, whether that person is there consensually or not, if that person has been abused or not, if that person is hooked on drugs or not. And that is one thing I would just try to tell people, let's try to get rid of that demand as well, because that's just a huge multi-billion-dollar a year industry.
And I mean, I want you to think about that, because I guess the second presentation that I got to see y'all do was literally where they'd go into Venezuela or whatever, where women could not get jobs. They couldn't work. That there was no work. It was horrible. And somebody come in and say, look, I can give you a job. And you're a doctor, you're a police officer, you're this. Just bring your passport down. We'll take you to the airport, take them to another country. Tell them how that goes, because we talk about people not being there of their own free will, and that's what it's becoming. So when I saw this, it blew my mind. But tell them how that process goes, because once they're there, they can't get out. They can't afford to get out. And I want y'all to think about that, because we're all grown men here in the United States. I'd grab my stuff and walk out.
Exactly.
Well, you're in a third world country that the politicians are making money off you too. They don't want you to leave. You're their bread and butter.
Right.
Explain that a little bit.
So it really is. It's preying on vulnerabilities. It's filling gaps, what people aren't getting. So first, overseas, oftentimes we're seeing, and as you mentioned in this case, which is called Operation Sage's Prayer, that will be another documentary that Angel Studios will put out. Here were amazingly talented and smart women in Venezuela. Some were college educated. Some had their own businesses. But because the economic situation, as you know, Roger, down there in that country is so dire, there are no jobs. They were very susceptible to a smooth talking Dominican trafficker. They didn't know he's a trafficker. They thought he was a businessman. And his girlfriend or fiance, who was from Venezuela, so their home country, he had dressed her up really nicely and said, she came with me to actually not even Haiti, to Dominican Republic. She became a model. She's made lots of money. Why don't you come? We can set you up. Afterwards, when we rescued these girls and they told us their stories, they said, even when he's telling us this, I knew something was wrong. I knew this didn't add up. I knew this could be too good to be true, but I had 5 kids. I had 5 mouths to feed. What am I going to do? And they got lured into this network. As they told their story, they all got to Santo Domingo, the capital of the Dominican Republic. They then had their passports taken. They were drugged. They woke up the next day or whenever it was in Port-au-Prince, Haiti, in the most obscure place in one of the most obscure countries, and they didn't have their passport. They didn't speak the language, and they had now what you were just talking about, a debt bondage. Now they were brought over, and listen to what the trafficker said. So you can work in this bar, this nightclub, because you owe me $1,000 for the ticket. I had to get you your visa. Here's some nice clothes. You owe me, let's say, $3,000. That quantity for these women, he might have said, you owe me $3 million. Right. There's no way they could have paid it. Well, then here's what happens. As they start to make some money, even though doing distasteful things, getting abused, at least to have a little bit of money to give the trafficker. Oh, each day you're here, you owe $50 more for lodging, $25 more for food. Oh, makeup and hair, another $25. That debt bondage goes higher and higher and higher. And one last thing I'll share on that. Some of the women told us later they were so disgusted by the work they would have to do, yet even though they knew their debt was getting higher and higher, they would not work. And each night they just knew they were never, ever getting out. And we're just fortunate we were able to find them and get these 10 women out. And now they're back with their children and doing very well.
That should literally blow your mind. Jason says, Matt and Tim, thank you for all your work. Absolutely. Joseph Lalibert says, I recently watched the interview with Tim Eduardo
Verostegui, yeah, one of the producers, Eduardo Verostegui. He's great. He plays Pablo in the movie. Remember the billionaire, the millionaire with the tuxedo?
Okay, so it says, almost broke down in tears when they're talking about the kid who handed him his Saint Tim. Dude.
The dog tag, the little Timoteo. I love it.
It's, man, and Joseph, I'm just like you. Every time I've heard Matt speak, luckily I sat towards the front and there's tears running down my face. First time I couldn't get out my phone fast enough to like scan and make a donation. It's like, look, I want to be part of this. So brother, I'm right there with you. And guys, we are doing a donation. You can go up to the top, click on that. Anything you can give. Look, we're tradespeople. We make good money. And take just a minute, give a little bit to, and this goes directly to Operation Underground Railroad. We don't touch it. Angel Studios doesn't touch it. Hollywood dang sure doesn't touch it. I didn't say that out loud in any bad way or mean way. But the thing is, guys, we have an opportunity to help and be part of this. Jake Max says, Raymond Burgos, why does America need another? Yeah, I didn't understand the stimulus check either. Get a job, working to the bone.
Yeah.
Says the heck with human traffickers. By the way,
I
good
share
morning.
that sentiment. That's a
yes,
good one.
yes, you're right. I think we're on the same page. Great thing to talk about and educate. Dylan Ashley, thank you very much. Joseph says, I recommend watching Tim Pool interview with Eduardo and Tim. And I've talked about you can't go into a lot of these third world countries now.
Right. Because we've gone in, we've arrested the wrong person. It's the right person, right, in our view, but it's the wrong person in terms of them being tied into politicians. So that operation you talked about in Haiti, Haiti was dangerous back when we did that operation a few years ago. That was before the president was assassinated, probably by the person who's the current president now, all the issues there. And then what we try to do is once we go into a country, work a few months with law enforcement, we then get out because things get a little bit too hot, right? People are looking for the Americans, and then we'll come back in a month or two, afterwards, or we'll wait a year. But what's really interesting is this deterrent effect that we're having is we're now going back into countries where we've operated before, such as Cartagena, Colombia, and we do send new operators in, new faces to the typical areas. And I would say in about 50% of the occasions, we're told, hey, man, we don't do that anymore because law enforcement's looking for us, or some Americans came in and there was the arrest and we don't do that.
The apple cart.
That's what we're trying to do.
Bet. I love it. Raymond Burgess says, yeah, Idaho needs a good leader as president. Joe Biden support good things there too. My view to stuff. I waited till the end of the movie to see if I could see Matt's name. Yeah, I thought it would be right up under Jim Caviezel's.
Exactly right.
Moved
yeah,
it
not
down
exactly
a little bit.
even. That's right.
They didn't want Jim put it in his contract. Matt needs to be way down there.
Of course.
So
can I actually tell one quick funny story
absolutely.
too? So Jim Caviezel, an amazing actor, as you guys know, Passion of the Christ, Count of Monte Cristo. He can do almost anything. However, what I found out on set, and he won't be mad at me saying, is he can't type very well. He can't type very quickly. So I was asked to stand in. If you remember in the very beginning, when he's Homeland Security officer, he's typing, he's looking, he's doing his report. Those are actually my hands, believe it or not. I had to put on his wedding ring. I'm left-handed. I wear my watch on my right hand. He's not, so I had to put his watch on. So that's my wife just jokes that I'm Jim Caviezel's hand model. So I have two roles. So you're right. Why wasn't I right under Jim Caviezel in the credits?
That may be 2 Oscars.
I think so.
Anything could happen. That's pretty cool. It's kind of like Waylon Jennings and the Dukes of Hazzard.
Yeah.
Says they keep showing my hands and not my face on TV.
Right.
Absolutely. Fidget the Bat Pony says, okay. Demo Smash.
That's an interesting. Read this one here, the one below.
Yep, that's where I'm headed. I was working in an apartment in the ghetto, noticed about 5 girls getting ready to make up and slutty clothing until was discussing was there for a clogged tub. Okay, hold on.
But he saw things.
Working in an apartment in the ghetto, noticed 5 girls getting ready in makeup and slutty clothing. The unit was disgusting, and he was there for a clogged tub and clogged lavatory sink. Guys, that's what we're talking about. Okay? When you're a tradesperson and you walk in the house, you have the opportunity to say, hey, look, excuse me, Mr. Osborne, I'm here to check out your plumbing, but we do a 360 inspection. We're going to check everything. Is there anywhere in your house I can't go? Yeah, there's 3 bedroom doors with deadlocks on them. Don't go in there. It's like, oh, wait.
Ding, 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 ding,
yeah.
ding, ding, ding.
Yeah, red flag. So, yeah, Demo Smash, you're right. Keep your eyes open. Look around. You never know what you're going to see. And, and people jump in and jump out. If somebody sees that, you gave some great websites earlier, and if Colton and Randy and them are listening, maybe they can put it in. What should somebody do? That they don't think it's bad enough to call 911. That they're not 100% sure, anything like that. But you know what, man, something wasn't right about that house.
Yeah.
What are their options?
Yeah, and first of all, too, please, no one go vigilante justice, right? Do not put yourself at any risk at all. However, again, so something is triggered, as we said, those spidey senses. If it's not emergency 911, once you leave, you could call the non-emergency number for your law enforcement, or you could call the National Anti-Human Trafficking Hotline. So again, it's 888-373-7888. Obviously, the number 888-373-7888, but that's kind of how you remember it. Hopefully, we'll be able to put that number in as well. They want you, if you see something, say something. They would rather you call, have it investigated, and it turn out to be nothing than for you not to say anything. So again, Demo Smash, nothing wrong with you not doing anything. But what's great is now you've brought this up, because now everyone in the future, tradespeople, can realize going in, you see something like this. Let's say this happens. 5 girls getting ready in makeup with slutty clothing. Now, maybe there is some legitimate reason for it. I'd rather have them investigate and say there actually is some legitimate
They're
reason.
headed to
Because to me, that seems a little
party.
bit, exactly, but that seems a little weird. And again, as we go back to this house in Cleveland years ago, 3 women held under lock and key, during that time, a plumber or 2 went in, an electrician or 2 went in, an HVAC technician or 2 went in. These are just what we're talking about. And I know one of the comments, what does this all have to do with plumbing? It actually has a lot to do with plumbing, because it is talking about you, the brave and awesome and qualified tradespeople of America. You are on the front lines without even knowing it. But if you don't know what's going on with human trafficking, you never will know if something is a little bit off or not in these houses you're visiting.
And we're in there every day, so we get the opportunity. Greetings, Roger and all. Zon, how are you doing? Good to see you in here. Ed Aiken, my brother, good morning. Good to see you too. Joseph Lalibert says, Matt, when you watched this movie, did it give you hope that more people would step up like him?
100%, Joseph. Yeah, great question. And this is really why we do a movie like this. And Roger and I have talked a lot, and he knows about our main mandate at Operation Underground Railroad. And you can visit our website, ourrescue.org, to learn more about the men and women, the real Jim Caviezel's now on the ground. Well, that's our main mandate. But secondly is to raise awareness through entertainment, if you will. And as you know, Roger, because you heard me speak about this before, our heroes in the U.S. civil rights movement of the past, in American history around the Civil War time, one of the heroes is Harriet Beecher Stowe, who wrote Uncle Tom's Cabin.
Mm-hmm.
Once she became aware of slavery, she was a housewife in Cincinnati, Ohio. She crossed the Ohio River one day, went south into northern Kentucky, saw men and women in chains, was so disgusted, she said, how do I help? Maybe some of you who come out of Sound of Freedom are saying, how do I help? Well, her sister told her, you like to write? Why don't you write a book? She said, I will write a book. I will if I live. She wrote Uncle Tom's Cabin. It was such an entertainment that galvanized people to take a stand against slavery, such that the account goes, when President Lincoln invited her to the White House, he met her and he said, so you're the woman who wrote the book, who started this war. So Operation Underground Railroad wants to be the group that puts together the documentaries and the movies that start this great war against child exploitation and human trafficking.
And it's a great way to do it, because, if we're not aware of it, we don't see it.
Correct.
If we don't know what's going on. And that there's a line in the movie, and I saw it on a post the other day, God's children are not for sale.
Yes.
And that is so cool. Yeah, plumbing is cool. Mario time. There you go. Carlos Escobar says, lots of trafficking in Florida.
Yes.
Where are the big hot spots in the United States?
Yeah.
And it does. It happens in little towns in Idaho, guys.
It does.
It happens everywhere. But what are the hot spots? Where do people go to recruit or whatever? Or are there hot spots?
Right. So grateful for Carlos's question. Florida currently is number 3 in the United States in terms of the number of calls that come into the National Anti-Human Trafficking Hotline that we just mentioned a minute ago. California, number 1, Texas, number 2, Florida, number 3, Nevada, interestingly, is number 4. Why would you think Nevada? Look at Las Vegas. What's going on? Is prostitution legal or not? And that gets to your question about where are the hot spots. It happens in New York and LA. It happens in Peoria, Illinois. It happens in Idaho, as we heard earlier. Where does it happen? It happens online more and more. And hopefully we can talk about, I'm sure you've got some parents and grandparents in the audience. We can talk about how to keep kids and grandkids safe. But it happens in massage parlors. It happens in nail salons, forced labor. But it also happens in homes. And that's why we're talking to tradespeople. I don't want people to be pessimistic, but it happens every day in every corner of the world. That's why groups like Operation Underground Railroad have so much success going with this American face, these American faces to go undercover, because the traffickers would never believe that we're working with law enforcement. We don't carry weapons. That's one of the scariest things, no longer being with the CIA, not carrying a weapon, not having the cavalry come in if something goes wrong. But our weapons are hidden microphones and undercover cameras, so we can record high definition video and high quality audio to give to prosecutors and then to use in documentaries and things such as you saw a couple times when you were at Master Networks and Connect.
And when you go into third world countries like that and you hand all this, or you've got all this to hand over to the politicians aren't always on your side, are they?
Not always. No.
You know, I've seen some of the deals where y'all were trying to get two groups of people out and y'all became the bad guys.
Exactly. So can you imagine that, running from not only the bad guys, but the good guys who had been paid off? So how do we deal with that? As you know, you can never reduce your risk by 100%. There's always some risk. So at Operation Underground Railroad, we say we will take calculated risks. We won't take dumb risks. How do you take calculated risk? Well, we only use units in the different countries vetted by the U.S. Embassy. Remember, the U.S. Embassy can't really help us unless there's a U.S. tie or a U.S. nexus. It's like the Jim Caviezel character experience as Tim Ballard in the movie. Tim, we're Homeland Security. We can't go off rescuing Honduran kids in Colombia. Same thing. U.S. Embassy can't help us in Colombia to rescue anyone other than American kids, but they can recommend who to work with. Then when we get with these units, we say, just so you know, the U.S. government knows we're here, right? Just to try to protect. But at the end of the day, look, we're a faith, a bunch of different faiths. We say a prayer and we go do it. We're willing to take calculated risk. If God forbid something happens, hey, at least we were trying to do it saving kids. Not foolproof, but that's what we do to try to protect our women and men who go undercover in these dark corners.
And we'll talk about friends and how they help here in a minute. Everyday Home Repairs says, good morning, guys. Pretty easy to get behind this mission. Thanks for putting this together, Roger.
And thank you.
Now,
amazing donations.
I love
here
it. Yeah. And guys, we are. Click up top there. There's a spot to click on a link that takes you over to Operation Underground Railroad. You know, donate as much or as little as you can. It doesn't matter. It all helps.
It really does. I can guarantee you every little bit helps.
Jake Mack says, God bless this man and everyone in Operation Underground Railroad. Y'all are doing the Lord's work. Without a doubt. Colton says, thanks for being here. Everyday Home Repairs. Elizabeth says there's a documentary about Operation Underground Railroad available to watch on YouTube called The Operation Toussaint.
And also on Amazon Prime, free on Amazon Prime, or if you don't have Prime, it's like $3. Very good, because that's the story of how Operation Underground Railroad starts. And as Liz knows, it educates and inspires and entertains. And I know how do we entertain, right? This is a horrible entertain. We do it tastefully. We take you behind the scenes in the operations. But there are a couple interviews where Tim talks about how someone who's hooked on pornography or who has been abused as a young kid, whose mind is now warped in terms of what is healthy sex with adults and then unhealthy sex with kids. He talks about how after a while, it's not enough to go and be with a 20-year-old girl or even 18-year-old. It's got to be younger. And then after a while, younger and younger. And again, it blows our mind, but that is what happens, this slippery slope. And we see that almost every day in the people we're helping law enforcement arrest around the world. How is it that they get caught up in this type of activity?
Not good at all. Yeah, Florida is hot. Not hot. Well said. A great message to take to heart. Let's get out there and help people. And tradespeople can help, guys.
Yes.
We're in the average service plumber, electrician, HVAC tech is in 420 houses a year.
Every year. Wow. Is that how many?
Man, that's a lot of houses to walk in, and you get to just walk in. What if I told you, look, you can go in 420 houses a year and just look around, just see, and it's random houses.
And remember too, what if it's only 1%? Where there's nefarious activity? You could have 4 or 5 occasions to spot something and do something.
That's huge, guys. And then think about that 4 times. What if there's 1 million tradespeople walking in houses and we're all doing it? That's 4 million houses that we walked in and affected something in. So guys, look at it from that way. It's a numbers game. The more of us we get involved, the more of us that do it, the more people we get to help save. Nelson Fisher says, I live down the street from a massage parlor and the girls never left there, except every 6 months a van would pull up and girls would get out and the ones that were there would leave would leave the cops,
or maybe with probably,
leave
right?
with the cops.
And that's a huge part too. You talk about this corruption. I do think law enforcement's getting better. There are always issues there. But one thing too here from Nelson's comment, we see the van pulling up. Oftentimes these traffickers move girls every few weeks, 6 months, it looks like in this case. And what's so sad and so sick is they will move them to different massage parlors in different states, and that allows them to advertise. I'm going to be sick to my stomach even saying this. Yeah, and fresh product, fresh merchandise. And it's disgusting. And so Nelson, again, you very likely lived down the street from a den of human trafficking. And oftentimes cops know about it, law enforcement knows about it. I like to think they're trying to do the right thing, but for lack of resources. But I'm not going to kid myself. We know that there is some involvement as well.
888-3737-888. It's that easy. And you just say, hey, look, may not be anything, but man, there's something kind of strange going on here. Y'all might just want to check it out. And it's not just homes, it's businesses. It's
correct.
It's
hotels, motels, Airbnbs. That's another thing too. Rental properties, correct? Because oftentimes these traffickers are using rental property, so it's not tied to them. You very well, tradespeople may be called in there. Also keep an eye out as well. If he tells you, hey, I don't really live here, I'm just here renting or whatever, but just don't go into these other places.
Yeah, the owner has them locked.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, just have your antenna out. And it may be nothing, but wouldn't you rather be wrong 90 times, but yet get that one and save than not even do anything at all and miss a chance to save someone?
Yeah. And it happens everywhere. When you're talking about a rental house, I remember seeing something on the news here in North Texas about a rental property just recently. And I say recently, within the last 6 months or a year, that got broken into because they were like, look, there's sex going on. It's a brothel, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
But hotels, motels, places that, have rooms, that's what it's all about. And guys, sometimes as plumbers, HVAC tech, stuff like that, we do get called. If you're a maintenance worker and they tell you, hey, you can't go in these rooms, just working on it from the outside, or give us 24 hours notice so we can let you go in, think about stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Raymond says, yes, people, if you see anything, just call the cops. And look, if you're not sure, do what Matt said, call the non-emergency number.
Yeah, you don't have to go 911 all the time.
Say, hey, look, I don't know what's going on. Just want to let y'all know this is what's happening. Yeah, shut it down, but open it again in a month. And that's exactly.
And that does happen. So absolutely, right? We don't want to be pessimistic. And I know, and obviously we're here in actually Richardson, not too far away. There was a complex near TI. So Texas Instruments, not blaming TI. It just happened to be near there, that they finally did shut down an area that was exploiting girls and women. And Dallas police did an amazing job. But they said, you know what? There's just a chance. It's like whack-a-mole. Probably it's open somewhere else. But at least they save some women. At least they save people. So again, let's be optimistic about it. But what Nelson's point is correct. Unfortunately, sometimes it shuts down and opens up under new management.
And they do that because, think about it. If you're running an illegal business for 6 months, there's a lot of people that know you're running an illegal business. And somebody comes in one day and you upset them because they couldn't get the girl they wanted. Well, now they're mad at you.
Right.
Do you want people mad at you when you know you're running an illegal business? And it's like, look, I'll just shut down, move 5 miles down the road, open up again, know who to advertise to and who not to. So, yeah, guys, keep your eyes open for stuff like this.
And remember, too, how lucrative it is. Why don't you tell the stat that you heard about just how much money these traffickers can make, and then I'll add a little bit more on. Because, again, what he's going to say, you're going to be, oh, there's no way you can make that much money. Yeah, they do.
And what I saw was a pimp who has bought someone who owns this property. And I hate looking at it that way.
But yeah, that's what they call it. I mean, we got to say it as it is.
$150,000 to $200,000 per person they own. So if they've got 5 people, they're making $1 million a year off these 5 people because they can resell them. And this is another one made my stomach turn, up to 10 times a day.
Mm-hmm. And think about that, $100 a pop, $125 a pop, more if they're younger, they're virgins. As we said, this is, again, the fastest growing criminal enterprise in the world. For traffickers for far too long have looked at this as a low risk, high reward proposition. Why low risk? Law enforcement's really not going after us. They've got homicides and drugs and, auto theft and everything. high reward because of what you said, a few times an hour, 10 times a day, profiting. So at Operation Underground Railroad, what we want to do is we want to make the risk side even riskier, because we want to be empowering law enforcement to go after them, setting up undercover stings overseas, in the U.S., providing support behind the scenes. And then I think still in the program, we'll have time to talk about our Aftercare program. That's how we really help these victims become survivors and these survivors become thrivers. We're trying to fire on all cylinders and attack this across the spectrum of human trafficking.
And we talked about that. And let's go ahead and talk about that just a little bit now. It's not just go in these countries and bring these women out. And I wanted to talk about friends, because in one of the deals I saw, y'all, well, it's when y'all were stuck. Y'all are like, we're fighting the good guys and the bad guys.
Yes.
Can't get a plane.
Right.
Can't get out of the country. Can't get passports.
Because the guy had still, we had rescued them, but they still had he still had their passports.
You bet. And the politician that was going to get them and had everything worked out, I was like, yeah, well, they paid me more than you did. But y'all called a friend. Tim called a friend.
We did. That's right. So
and it started with prayer.
It started with prayer. So this was in July, a few years ago, July 31st, I think, and August 1st was the operation. Well, what had happened is that Tim Ballard was in the control room, the Operation Underground Railroad headquarters, as he said, in the wimpy seat, which is now I'm in the wimpy seat, which is cool because I had sent these brave men and women around. But he was with the operation and things weren't going well. All of a sudden, he gets a text from the wife of Tony Robbins, from Sage Robbins. And he was in Utah Mountain Time Zone. She was in West Palm Beach, Eastern Time Zone. And it was really late where she is, wee hours in the morning. She goes, Tim, I've just been praying for the past 2 or 3 hours. I don't know why, but I just felt to send you this picture of Jesus. So he texts her this picture of Jesus. And Tim's like, Sage, you have no idea. The past 3 hours, our operators have been running for their lives, rescuing these girls. She said, oh my gosh, this is crazy. Tony's here with me. We're praying. Please keep us posted. Well, for those next 5 days, Tony and Sage Robbins were praying. We were trying to get the passports. And 5 days in, we finally got the passports, but we couldn't take them to the commercial airport in Port-au-Prince, Haiti, because this trafficker named Reginald, he had all his thugs, all his goons were there waiting for us. We had to somehow get to the Dominican Republic. We couldn't go overland because he had paid off all the customs agents along the border. We needed a private jet. So as Tim would come later to say, he's like, I decided to call Tony because I thought maybe he had access to a private jet. I think he might have 3.
A few.
And so Tony said, absolutely, let me send the plane. I just have one request, that when you get them out, their first day of freedom is at my home so Sage and I can pray with them. So we did. We got the girls out, and we named the operation Sage's Prayer, and that will be a documentary. Whereas you mentioned earlier, we can't make this stuff up. This is the actual footage that you'll be seeing in this operation. It was the scariest time of my life. It truly was. I'm not speaking hyperbole here. Time I didn't think I was going to come home alive, or I thought I was going to end up in a Haitian prison, and I don't know which one would be better right there.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, there's neither one of those that are good.
Now, spoiler alert, I did survive the operation.
Oh, you did? See,
Sorry about that.
I wasn't going to tell anybody. I was not going to tell anybody. Tony Robbins, thank you.
Yes, thank you. Tony and Sage, we love you.
Yeah, that, and I'm watching this again. When you're in a room with 300-400 entrepreneurs and you're watching this stuff, and I mean, tears are just running down your face. You're like, man, there's stories you won't forget. Awesome. God bless you all so much. Absolutely. They are doing, look, Operation Underground Railroad is doing fantastic things, y'all. Thomas Cheney says this is a very good topic to go over, Roger. As tradespeople, guys, look, we have an opportunity. We walk in people's houses every day. We walk in businesses every day. So the opportunity is there. Just when you see something that doesn't look, sound, smell, whatever it is, if it's not right, if your senses go off and it's like, man, and I talked about this the other day, and one of my plumbers says, remember that time that they had gone to a house and they told us, the next day or whenever, I mean, there's something weird about that house. Well, at the time we didn't know what to do or anything like that. Now it's 888-3737-888. Javier says, thank you for protecting the kiddos. We all talk about what we would do if we saw it, but very few of us actually do something. Thank you for doing what you do.
Yeah, and I love that too. Oftentimes, and Glenn Beck and others of our supporters have made this comment. He said so many people tell him, oh man, if I lived back in the time of the Civil War or the transatlantic slave trade, I would have been the biggest abolitionist. And he always says, well, really? Well, what are you doing now?
Right.
And that's what I love. Everyone in the audience, now we're all abolitionists. We're modern day abolitionists. Now, once you see, you can't unsee. Once you know, you can't unknow. And that's what I just see even from the comments coming in. I think we've got some more people in our army now. This is great.
No, it is. It's wonderful. And look, guys, we're the trades. We're all across the world. And, right here in the United States, the biggest supplier and consumer of this, it's nuts. God, there was something you said a while ago, and I thought, that'd be a great thing to talk about. Let's talk about aftercare.
Mm-hmm.
You go into these countries, you pull them. How many women did y'all fly to Miami? Right?
Yeah, we flew about 10 of them to Miami.
Okay. What happens with them then?
So each situation is different based on the level of trauma they've experienced. Imagine if you were an orphan. Imagine if your own mother sold you into this. That actually happens. Imagine if there was someone, either a local gang member on the corner who was pimping you out, or let's be honest, maybe an uncle, a stepfather. My point is if you can't go home, you need to go into vetted aftercare homes. We try to get these kids back to their parents whenever possible, and mostly we can if the parents weren't involved. But we have now set up relationships in all 50 states of the United States. Even though we don't do the physical rescue, we support from behind in the United States. Overseas, we have partner homes in every country in which we work. And I mentioned you earlier on your podcast, you had asked me if I could change one thing, if I could tell the Matt Osborne back in 2014, who joined Operation Underground Railroad then, if I could tell him anything then, what would it be? I would say focus more on the aftercare right off the bat. I admit, transparent organization, our first few months of existence, we did not do aftercare very well. Why? Because we were a group of guys who were CIA, Homeland Security, Green Berets, Navy SEALs. These guys do a lot of great things.
No touchy-feely stuff going on right there with those guys. And I don't mean that bad. It's straight. Hey, our job is going kick down the freaking door and get them out.
Right. Exactly. And then one country, we asked the country, okay, before we do this operation, how many kids can we rescue where you can take care of them afterwards? If you rescue 20, we can take care of them. We rescued 20. They only had 5 beds available in that country. 15 of them went back into it. Still to this day, I'm just sick to my stomach. So we stopped operations. We set up an aftercare department, and now we only go in, we first go into the country, say, okay, tell me about your aftercare facilities. Where are the beds? Hey, do you need some money? Let's get some lighting. You talk about tradespeople. We need you guys to come down, which actually is another thing. If any of you are interested in pro bono or other things helping us, because we try to rebuild these facilities and they need all sorts of help. Once we know they have a certain number of beds available, then we can go and talk about the rescues. That is what I think shows why aftercare is so important. It didn't really get into it as much in Sound of Freedom. However, in the beach rescue scene, if those of you have seen it when the kids are celebrating, and actually we should talk about why it's called the Sound of Freedom. That was amazing. That those women who were there in the light blue shirts with the kids, those were actually the Child Protective Services equivalent in Colombia, with whom we worked very closely on this operation.
The attorney guy that was there with the other people, when he picks that little boy and says, he's mine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
It was a very well done movie, and yet not graphic. Again, it's PG-13. I would say, your kids better than we do, but I would say a mature 11 or 12-year-old, anyone that way up, I think it's important for them to see.
Yeah. And you see that, and it makes you think. I've got granddaughters, so that's why I do a lot of what I do. LinkedIn user says the 2 biggest human trafficking annual events in the United States happened during NASCAR and the Super Bowl.
And you know why? Because remember, and I think you can see on the screen, it's only this percentage of men, right? It really is who would do this. What happens at the Super Bowl and NASCAR?
Percentages grow.
Exactly.
Real quick. All right. I am probably way behind. Oh yeah, I'm 30 minutes behind on comments, guys. Sorry. I'm trying to go through and do all this. I think the impact of Sound of Freedom release now allowed more people to become aware of the film and the disgusting trafficking tentacles over the last 2.5 years. With more advocates, conversation is amplified. And in my view to stuff, I completely agree with you. It's more than 2.5 years.
Right.
When did you first speak at Connect? Is 3 or 4 years ago?
Yeah. Was it 2019 before COVID, I think?
Okay.
4 years.
So that's when I first heard about it. And at that point, I'm like, wow, what can I do? How can I do it? And you talked about pro bono and your building places and stuff like that. Look, you can always reach out to me. I'll
Thank you,
put
for
feelers out
sure.
and say, hey, look, I'm looking for a plumber in yada yada yada. Somebody get in touch with me. Look, we have problems with connections, and I thought that something's happened. But we're gonna keep going. Could you ask, please, being a
CIA.
CIA agent, what does he think such a growing and profitable business? Well, that's easy. I can almost answer that one.
Yeah.
Some of the 3-letter federal organizations facilitating this.
You know, I certainly hope not. What I think I've been real disappointed in the 3-letter agencies lately, and it's been in the news, is just the politicization of intelligence. Regardless of what side of the aisle you're on, I think we all agree that we need our men and women in these organizations to focus on U.S. national security, support the president, support the president's policies. I've seen a lot of that. In my 12 years, I never saw anything, Jake, that made me think that the 3-letter agencies were facilitating it. Now, do I think that there are politicians who are involved? Absolutely. I mean, just look at Jeffrey Epstein. Just look at Jeffrey Epstein. Even the clients we know, both sides of the aisle, the Bill Gates of the world, the Prince Andrews of the world. But I'm certainly not naive to say that, oh, it never happens. I never saw it firsthand. And I just really hope that it doesn't exist.
And what was Jeffrey Epstein's girl's name?
Yeah, Ghislaine Maxwell, and then Giselle in the movie, which again, we were joking.
Really
this
close,
script was written even before Jeffrey Epstein was known publicly. However, I do believe God has a sense of humor.
I know. I was like, You know, what Arsenio Hall used to say, things that make you say, Jack Mack says it seems too big for them not to know about who's running this stuff in the U.S. at least. You know, yes, but when you got a lot of big names at higher levels, things they become it's accepted almost,
right?
And you know, and look at the world we're in today. And you said you worked for Bush and
Obama. George W. Bush and Barack Obama. Yeah.
Two completely different philosophies, two completely different presidents.
Right.
How do you do that open-minded to both one? Look, you know, when you're on a team, man, in this room, we agree 100%. Or we don't, but that's in this room.
Right. Correct.
But when you walk outside, we're always on the same page.
Mm-hmm.
Two completely different presidents, two completely different, I'm going to call it governments.
Yeah, philosophies of government. Yeah, areas of focus.
How hard is that, being a CIA? Because you don't join the CIA and say, well, I'm on the Republican CIA or the Democratic CIA.
Right.
I'm in the CIA.
Yeah, and I definitely have my political views, but I shelved those when I was working for, for each part. I said I will work just as hard for Republican and Democrat and vice versa. And the best people I ever saw, my colleagues, did the same thing. Now, when we disagreed with policies, we could try to affect change from within. Didn't always happen that way. But first and foremost, it was United States of America, American foreign policy. And that was really neat, being an intelligence officer and then a diplomat on the ground. For some people I met, I was the only American they'd ever meet in person. And so the opportunity to try to talk about the good in our country, deal with the bad, deal with the problems, that was something I very much enjoyed. But for me, it was never, I'm like, oh, I don't agree with this president's politics, so I'm not going to do a good job. It was, hey, I'm blessed to represent the American people. Yes, I work for the president. And again, this isn't just cliche, but I actually say, no, I work for the 300 plus million Americans.
I love that. Andy Rose says, is this profitable? Dude, this is what it's about. Look at everything illegal. Okay. Drugs, prostitution itself, but human trafficking. Human trafficking is growing to be one of the biggest financial opportunities for organized crime.
Right. Because they see how profitable it is. And we see the cartels exploiting women and girls. And now more and more, it's moving online. It's moving in the dark web. So that $150 billion stat that I've heard is forced labor and commercial sexual exploitation and organ harvesting. I mean, the things humans have come up with to do bad to other humans. I don't know what those numbers are, but as I mentioned, all I know is that on 24 different occasions with Operation Underground Railroad, I've gone undercover, tourist areas, several different countries. And within minutes, I'm talking to someone who's going to sell me everything from a shell necklace to a pack of cigarettes. I mean, he's offering to me, I don't smoke, to a jet ski ride or parasail, or then he leans in, I got anything you want. Like you were saying, drugs, girls, what do you want?
You bet.
And even if he himself doesn't have it, he knows to make a few calls or text messages. And within an hour, I'm sitting across the table from someone who's bartering the life, the health, the freedom of a human, as if casually talking about sack of potatoes, bag of limes. It costs this much. It weighs this much. You'll do this much. So to me, if every single time I've gone down there, I've been offered this, you know that this is so lucrative and it's all around the world.
Okay, so you told me a story earlier. You're talking to a lady that you were supposed to buy 20, 50 girls from, don't remember?
Yep.
And she canceled your meeting. Said she couldn't deliver. She had a problem come up.
This was in
What was her problem?
Yeah, this was in Acapulco, Mexico.
Okay, guys, Acapulco. How many of you have gone to Mexico for vacation?
Mm-hmm.
And this is where we're talking. I want you to think about this.
And it was a female, so another myth busted, right? Oh, it's just men. It's just guys who look like Guido or whatever do these traffickers. Female. And I told Roger earlier, I mean, she was the most physically attractive woman, one of the most physically attractive women, beautiful women I've ever seen. There was nothing in her eyes, no light, no nothing. And she was just saying, yes, so I'm grooming some girls. She actually said, she probably said, I'm preparing some girls, 11 years old, 12 years old, virgins. I'll charge each $7,500 for each. You can have them. So we set up an operation. It was going to be 2 weeks from that meeting. We were ready. 10 days later, so about 4 days before the meeting, she calls and says, Mateo was my undercover name. Mateo, I can't do the op now because my daughter, 6-year-old daughter, just had her appendix, something happened, rupture, burst, and I have to take her to the best hospital in Mexico City. She's the light of my life. I'll do everything for her. I drop everything. And I'm sitting here thinking, wow, mother, the best mother in the world, mother of the year, who's grooming 11 and 12-year-olds for $7,550 a pop for their virginity. I'm not making this up. This will come out in one of our documentaries too. It is just horrible, some of these things, and it's real, and we need to know it's real. And that's why I love one of the earlier comments, why the sound of freedom is so important to get the word out about this.
It's huge. And guys, look, mess with Operation Underground Railroad, OURrescue.org. Go check it out. There's a link up top if you want to donate. Go up there, click. The money goes straight to them. It's straight for Operation Underground.
And I appreciate you saying that too, because with Sound of Freedom, none of the proceeds go to Operation Underground Railroad, nothing from ticket sales. And that's fine. It's a separate project. We have been very blessed with people since July 3rd, when the movie came out, coming to our website. We signed up new users. We got new donors. I'm just grateful now we see some of the money raised thanks to each of one of you who have donated. And this going to OURrescue.org to donate. I pledge to you, we will do everything we can to use these dollars as the sacred donor dollars they are, to put them towards rescuing, rehabilitating children. And I know we can do it. And we've gotten so many more requests just since the Sound of Freedom came out to be in other countries, but we need funds to get operations teams to then go and do this.
Yeah, because when you first went to work there, it's like, we'll pay you if we can.
And we have enough money to do one operation, maybe pay you for 1 month, and then you're going to get on TV, to get media, to get more money to go. And now, as I said earlier, 6 regions around the world, the lights never go off, the sun never sets on OUR's area of responsibility.
And God's children are not for sale.
Amen.
Got a message here. It says, I have recordings of my so-called adopted brother admitting how he gets people to the border. He threatened me if I say anything. 888-3737-888.
You can be anonymous.
Just say, hey, look.
It is. Where can I send it? And they'll direct you, because that's excuse me. So that's run in Washington. That number, sort of a clearinghouse, comes into Washington. And then if you say, I'm in Dallas, Texas, I'm in Peoria, Illinois, whatever, they will then farm that out to local authorities. But again, you can remain anonymous.
I love that. This MSN uses religion to cover up for his bad deeds. Don't know what you mean by there. Michael Hirsch, after they are rescued, is there a program to help get them back into society? And we talked about that.
Yeah, and again, as we talked about, each one's different. So along this is just a total stereotype spectrum in terms of what we've helped in the past. We've helped everyone to have their own tortilla stand in Guatemala, so they can have a microcredit loan for that, to now helping people study to become doctors, lawyers. And what always gets me, and I'll try not to get emotional now, it's those who are trafficked, the victims. When we say, what do you want to do? They'll say things like, well, when my trafficker beat me and I had to go to an emergency room, no one would help me. So I want to be I want to work in emergency rooms so I can take care of victims. Or when I had my case, the trafficker had his high-priced attorney and they got off scot-free, and no one would represent me. I want to be a lawyer because I want to represent trafficking victims. And that's what we try to do with our aftercare program. I'm sorry.
No, look, I've been emotional all day. Black Cloud says, how does this have to do with plumbing? Well, guys, look, I wanted to do this, and don't mean it's mean, but if you don't like it, you can click off, go somewhere else. We walk in as tradespeople, as plumbers, a service plumbing company owner. My plumbers walk in about 420 houses a year. And if everybody walked in, just knew what to look for. So, and I don't take that wrong, Black Cloud. I get to do what I want to do. I get to support the organizations I want to support. My plumbing company help support whatever it is that Operation Underground Railroad uses the money for. And I felt so good doing it. So I had an opportunity to do this. I've been trying to do this for about 4 years.
Yes, I know.
And to get my schedule and his schedule,
his fault.
He used to be out in the field a whole lot more.
That's right.
He's now sitting in the easy chair.
Yep.
So I get to do this. And you know, like Matt said a while ago, if this helps one person, man, what a great thing. You know, here's what would be neat to me, and I'll just say this while I'm here. 5 years from now, I see something on the news. This guy says, "Oh God, they just rescued this truckload of children or whatever." And the guy's like, "Well, man, I watched Roger Wakefield a few years ago, and he told me what to look for." And Bubba, I love you, man. Way to go. Cole Mayhew says, "I saw a man and a young woman once while walking through Kroger, and the girl was terrified of her own shadow. It was blatant to me. She was not there voluntarily. I didn't know what to do at the time." 888-3737-888. At that point, to be honest, though, I'd probably call 911 and say, "Hey, look, may not be anything, but somebody needs to get here quickly and ask questions."
Yeah. And I would say the same thing. And now with your antenna up, Cole, when you see that, and if anyone else is in that situation again, another thing too is ask the store manager, tell the store manager, "Hey, can you just kind of engage with that person?" And you'll be able to see maybe there's a legitimate reason she's having a bad day. But again, if that man in that case we're answering for, stepping in front of her, kind of blocking her out, that's when the antenna really goes up.
Yeah. Yeah, if you walk up and say, "Hey, honey, how you doing?" and there's all of a sudden like a bouncer in front of you. Yeah. Okay, so Joseph Lalibert says, "Could you please talk about the operation that occurred during the filming the movie?"
Yeah. So everything that you saw was true or based on a true or inspired by true events that happened, except the last part with the Colombian jungle and all of that, even though that was based on something we did in Haiti and the Dominican Republic when we dressed up as doctors. So the first two cases, Oshinsky and Bachman, if you remember that, the two American pedophiles, one who was obviously on his computer, the other who was bringing the boy across the border, Teddy Bear. Those were based on real cases that Tim Ballard worked with a woman named Ali Serrano, who was 18 years with the U.S. Department of Justice at Operation Underground Railroad. Then the big rescue, that was part of Operation Triple Take, as we mentioned, in Cartagena, Colombia. So all of that happened pretty much as you saw in the movie, which was incredible. The beach scene, the kids, everything. The reason the movie is called Sound of Freedom, and I'll be real quick. After the actual Triple Take in Cartagena, you know, we have our big Navy SEALs, our operators, and we're being marched out. We're handcuffed. We're arrested. I've been arrested 9 times in 6 different countries. My kids think it's hilarious. As we're walking out, normally the kids think we're the bad guys. Well, in this particular case, one of the Child Protective Services workers told the girls, "Hey, isn't it great all those Americans came in to help you?" Well, they started cheering and saying in English, "God bless America. Thank you, America." They were singing. One of our operators is in tears. He turns to Tim and he says, "Do you hear that? That's the sound of freedom." So in the movie with the character Vampiro looking at Tim and saying, "Do you hear that? That's a sound of freedom." Very close to how it actually happened in real life.
Says Black Cloud, "We may see stuff like this working trades doing service calls to rentals."
Absolutely.
To rentals, businesses, anything. 26 says, "A connection I never would have made without this stream. Thank you." Connection is real. Tradesmen can help. I'm not going to be able to get through all the comments. I know that. I need help. I have 2 family members who passed away and I know their passports are used for human trafficking and other illegal activities, who do I go to for help?
I think the same number, because you can brief, you can send that information, they can research it. Maybe nothing, maybe something, but at least you're getting the ball rolling on that.
And I pinned that number up top, 888-3737-888. Black Cloud said, because can you guys go over a bit more about what to do when you notice domestic disputes or harmful situations when you show up at a job? I'm in IT, and sometimes we come across some sketchy situations. Again, if it's domestic abuse and you see it and you know it, and wait, I just saw him knock her out, that's a 911 call. If you're not sure, but you're like, hey, I think something's going on here, not emergency. Every police station, every police department has two numbers, 911 and non-emergency. Call the non-emergency and say, hey, I'm not sure, but I think there's something going on here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
100%. And remember, you don't want to go vigilante, but you also don't want them to know that you're onto something. So just kind of relax. Easier said than done. I know that. Gather as much information with your 5 senses as you can, and then you will go, as Roger just said, and depending on how serious it is or not, non-emergency number, anti-human trafficking hotline, or 911.
Here's a good one. My view to stuff says, with all the criminality and complicit government agencies, politicians, and child services and human trafficking, is calling the hotline really making a difference, or starting another cover up?
Yeah, from what we've seen, we have had some people who've called and later to tell us it wasn't that they tried to cover up, but they just went down the path and there wasn't really a lot they found. But I've seen now on about 5 different occasions over the past year or so that we have actually seen some real good for those calls.
You don't get to carry a gun anymore.
Don't get to carry a gun. No.
Matt, your weapon's the Holy Ghost, brother.
We'll take whatever we can get. That's right. Grateful for it.
Emma's dad says, Kayla Hamilton was my daughter, murdered by an illegal team smuggled into America. The cops and Homeland Security let everyone down. They had him housed in a group home while waiting for DNA evidence. We've got to trust the system to an extent. And it's not always going to work out the way we want it to, but man, we still got to keep trying.
Right.
And this is why we're trying to get the word out and let people know. My brother Sean Strong says, hey crew, sorry been MIA lately, currently building a fence. Nice. Good for you. Lots of trafficking going on in Riverside County. Look guys, it's everywhere. Mm-hmm. It's Idaho. We talked about that a while ago.
And one thing too, so Riverside County, I've heard of Riverside County, California. I'm not sure if that's where you're talking. Maybe it's another state. But regardless, if any of you are in areas where you think that you would like to see what we can do to fight human trafficking, OURrescue.org on our website, you can send in a note and say, hey, I've got a connection with a police chief or sheriff or prosecutor. We bring in our tools. It doesn't cost them anything. We provide, thanks to donations, look at this. Look, we're getting up here high. Thank you so much for your generosity. This is what we do. We provide funding, training, tools, technology. These men and women, and yes, they can always do more. We get frustrated with law enforcement, but you said we got to trust the system. There's always more we can do, but they need more resources, and that's what we do at Operation Underground Railroad.
I love it. It happens with family members. Guys, think about that. I've got 2 reasons that I'm doing this. Number one, I want to help put an end to it. If and we talked about, look, we've both been to topless bars when we were younger. And, at the time you walk in like, man, these girls are where they want to be.
Of course. That's the way they act. Like they got to act like they're having the time of their life.
That, people. And you guys that are going over to third world countries and having sex with 14-year-old girls, don't think that that's what those 14 girls want to do. Right. Don't think that that's where they want to be. Right. It does happen with family members, but also by bringing this to light, we can talk about our family members. How do we protect them? And we've talked about that. What could people do when they get off here today? Talk to their children, talk to their grandchildren, but what do they say?
Yeah, again, it's just letting them know that this exists. And you as the parent or grandparent, you have to walk the fine line between educating your child, alerting them to this danger, and not just freaking them out so they're going to be scared and not be able to go through their life. It's very scary. There are predators online. It doesn't mean you shouldn't go online. Just be careful. There are predators in online gaming, but you should, and go in the malls, movie theaters. Essentially, just let your children know that if anything seems too good to be true, it probably is. If anyone's asking you to do something deep down is not right, don't do it, and tell a parent. They can help you. What the traffickers are hoping for is that you will be so embarrassed or scared to tell a parent that once you give them something that they can then use some incriminating or compromising information, then they'll just have you in their network. But the minute you tell a parent who can then help, that's the beginning of actually taking care of this and protecting your child or grandchild.
Kids with all the little risque pictures being sent back and forth. Now, look, a lot of them probably cross the line. And with AI out there, you can make them cross the line really easy.
I know.
And tell your parents. And once they say a girl tells her dad finds the picture online. What can they do?
So regardless of whether it was an actual nude picture or compromising picture they sent or something with Photoshop or AI, the website cybertipline.org, you can report it and they can help you get that off of the internet. It is something, again, we all do it. I mean, who's the first person who's made dumb mistakes back in the day? I have. I'm just so grateful. I don't know, Roger, if you agree. Thank goodness there wasn't one of these around, these cell phones, because I wasn't a bad kid, but the stupid stuff I said and did, I would have been canceled.
Yes.
I would have been unemployable.
Yeah.
And if they had social media, I probably would have done dumb things. So I'm telling my daughters who are college age that you just have to be very careful out there, but mistakes happen. Tell your child or grandchild, if there's something you've done that's embarrassing, please tell us. We can help make it better. The more you're quiet, that's when it gets worse.
Cheeseburger XJ says, yes, Roger, you're right. It's up to us to stop this from happening. We can't wait for others to do it. That's why Tim Ballard did this.
Yeah.
Okay. Nobody's going to fund him in the beginning. It's like, look, we can't do that. You're an American. You can't go here and help people from other countries. We're here to help America.
Right.
Now we're doing things a little different, and I love that. Emma's dad, sorry to hear about your loss and the pain having been so abused by the system. It was supposed to protect your daughter and your family. Look, the system doesn't always work, guys. It doesn't. If it did always work, we wouldn't be having this problem right now because it's against the system. But it's what's going on because of the money that they're making. So we need to do everything we can. Amber says, thank you so much for doing this. No, thank y'all for being here. That this is what makes it all work. And guys, look, this live stream is going to be up. Share it with other people. Share it on your social media. This lets other people know. And trust me, believe it or not, whether you know it or not, you know a plumber, you know an HVAC tech, you know a roofer, an electrician. So maybe they see this and think, wow, you know what? I need to watch this. Emma's dad says he walked out of the group home and disappeared. Guys, here's the thing. The system needs a lot of work. He says, what is the percentage of these rescues that fall back into this trafficking?
Yeah, unfortunately, it does happen. Again, as we talked about earlier on the show, what if your own mother sold you into this, right? Like, I'm not judging anyone. Can you imagine what the trauma would be? And I'll use one quick example of that. In Acapulco, so I guess it was later on after that operation I talked about, we rescued two girls. One was 19, one was 16. Both of them had been in it a few years. We got them both into an aftercare home within a day of the rescue in Mexico City. After 4 days, the 19-year-old says, I'm going back. What do you mean you're going back? We can provide you all these resources. And she said this exact phrase, well, I'm 19. I've been in this since I was 15 for the past 4 years. The only thing I've been told I'm good for the past 4 years is to satisfy the desires of these guys when they want, how they want, where they want. They said, that's all I'm good for. And I believe that. We tried so hard, Roger, and she left. So that trauma brought her back into the sex trade. However, the 16-year-old had the same trauma, was still having the same issues as this other girl was being pulled back in, and she said, no, I'm not going. And today she's doing very well.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Elizabeth says, this is why Matt is one of my true heroes.
Oh, thank you, Liz.
I'm not religious, but I do feel like you guys are doing good work. You're helping people, and that's the most important thing. Black Cloud, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Real life heroes. What if a relative is doing human trafficking and threatening you and you want to tell on them? I posted the number up top. 888-3737-888. And Matt says you can be anonymous.
And also call your local law enforcement too. Again, they will protect you. They'll help you figure out ways to get that information to them without coming back to you. But again, if you truly know that your relative is doing human trafficking and they're threatening you, then that's a big sign that there is something going on. There are ways that you can be protected, and you don't want this to happen even one more moment if you have a chance to actually save a child or an adult who's a victim.
And you know what? If you're still too afraid to do it, contact me. Send me a message.
Yeah. That's right. You can be the
I'll get it
anonymous
to the right
source. You can
people,
be
or
the
I can just
anonymous
call
source.
people and say, hey, man, look, I did this show and somebody reached out to me and said, y'all may want to, and don't get me wrong, I don't want y'all sending me a list of your neighbor because he's loud at night or something like that. But I mean, seriously, it's something that, we can think of. Hopefully, most three-letter agencies are working to protect the country and our Constitution for the we the people, not the president or some silly uniparty politician. They're just different, really, in name.
Yep.
And here's the look. Our let's talk about politics in the United States. We are so polar now, and I saw something the other day. And it was on TikTok or something. And somebody had sent it to me because this guy's looking for a wife or something. He's like, but if you voted for Biden, I don't want to talk to you. And I'm like,
gosh.
well, used to we joke about stuff like that. It's like, well, hey, you voted for him, man, not me.
I know. That's
And,
right.
and we'd laugh about it, and it was funny. Now it's like, wait, no, if you voted him, I don't even want to talk to you.
I know.
It's like,
so
are you
sad.
serious?
It's so sad what's happening in our country, for sure. That's what we hope. And we would hope that if there's one issue that can unite everyone, it's that children shouldn't be abused. Children shouldn't be raped. We've been pushed back, again, far left and far right, right? It's like you've got kooks on both sides, but we are just working to do all we can to unite. And the neatest thing we've seen is overseas in countries where just a few years ago, they had no idea what human trafficking was. They had no idea how to investigate it. Some of these countries had trouble even getting online and putting in profiles. These countries, like the Sound of Freedom movie, Colombia, that operation that you saw in the movie, that was back in 2014, we probably paid 85-90% of the resources, did about 85-90% of the work. Now Colombians are doing things with maybe 15% of our help, or sometimes doing it on their own. So it's this whole, we're teaching them to fish, not just giving them a fish, and we're having an exponential effect for good, which is really a great success at OUR.
Man, I love that. Brett Edwards says, great intel and an amazing mission.
Thank you, Brett.
Absolutely. Jack Mack says, Matt, of the three-letter agencies aren't helping run this top stuff, then how come, though everyone talks about it, does anything about the adrenochrome?
Yeah.
Since you mentioned organ trafficking.
So the three-letter agencies, HSI, Homeland Security Investigations, they have the worldwide mandate to go after child sex abuse material, and they lead in the United States to fight human trafficking. That's why Sound of Freedom was so important, I think, to show that good work. The FBI does a little bit of fighting against human trafficking, CIA not so much. And then now we're really empowering local agencies and state agencies in Texas, where Roger and I are now, the Texas Department of Public Safety, the Texas Rangers, not that good baseball team this season, but the Texas Department of Public Safety, they actually fight human trafficking as well and do a great job in Texas. I would imagine if any other states are represented here, that you do have human trafficking task forces that hopefully are doing a good job.
What is or was your badge ID, so we know how to thank you. Just write a thank you note and send it to Operation Underground
That's right.
Railroad.
Thank you.
You're
funny,
good.
Funny.
I asked what it has to do with plumbing a long time ago. I just tuned in when I said
That's
that.
good. No, we like Black Cloud. He's had some good
No,
questions.
no, it really
has
has
some good questions.
And that's why I said in the beginning, look, I'm not trying to bust you or throw you under the bus or anything, but it's like, man, I get to do stuff like this.
Yeah.
What are signs to look for at nail salons, fast food, and other signs? Because it's not just sex.
Correct. And this is a tough one because the traffickers are going to go out of their way to make sure you don't notice anything. You will never notice in a fast food restaurant, Asian nail salon, massage parlors, what the signs are. It's only, unfortunately, kind of afterwards. Where do the girls go? Where are they? My suggestion is, if they even speak English, you can kind of engage with them. Just ask them sort of normal questions. If you sense that they either don't want to share or their story doesn't add up, then maybe that's an issue. But I want to say on the show too, you don't have to play private investigator every time, but just know that there are victims that are exploited for forced labor in some of these areas that you mentioned here.
In my mind, it is completely different. When he's talking about, you don't want to play PI, you don't want to do this, you won't know till after they leave. Ask them, what's your favorite place around here to go eat dinner at? Because
yes.
You know what? They may be like, I don't go eat dinner.
Good point. Or, hey, when you don't have to work, where do you go? What tourist areas?
Is there anything fun to do around here?
Because you're right. Because they will just go back and forth. I like that. That's good.
See, I should have been.
You should be. Let's hire our newest operator.
I love that. Hey, I'm on board with that. Let me tell you. What are signs to look for? Okay, so we got that. Y'all need to investigate. Whoever just asked, what's that got to do with plumbing? No, I tell you, no, they asked for a reason, Jake. I get it. So no, I have no problem with that. Hey, I'll tell people what I think right in the very beginning, but we kept talking. He had good stuff. Where will the Sound of Freedom be available
Good
after it leaves
question.
theaters? Guys, it's there on a limited release. Now remember, Disney didn't want it. So sorry, I laughed a little bit. Netflix didn't want it. Hollywood didn't want it. Nobody wanted it. So it came out on a limited release.
Yep, Angel Studios. So what
Love
we've heard
Angel
from Angel
Studios, y'all.
Studios, yeah, I do as well. We love Angel Studios. So what we've heard is that the more people go to see it, the longer it'll be in theaters. And I know one of the questions earlier, comment, how much longer? Right now, I think it's only until the 20th. So next week, next Thursday, maybe. So please go see it. They'll extend it. Then I'm told it's going to be on the Angel app, which I know you have, I have as well. And then it's going to be released throughout Latin America, different parts of the world. And I think this momentum is going to continue.
You're in the CIA, or we're in the CIA. Why won't they release the Epstein client list of the government isn't doing its stuff? Do you know who's on it, Matt?
Well, I will tell you my opinion. Yeah, I don't know, although I have some good thoughts. Again, as we saw, right, even the names that came out on the list, how powerful these people are. So right, who's even more powerful probably on the list. People ask me, I'm saying, look, Ghislaine Maxwell, she has not released the list, the names. She probably knows it, or maybe she has given it and people are hiding it. To me, that shows that there obviously is something going on even worse or more sinister that would be even worse than actually releasing the names. Isn't that a scary thought?
Yeah, it is. Well, and when people get Clintoned in jail, things like that, it's a scary thought. Right. Accessibility is what it is. Caliper Studios says, tried donating, but Google blocked me. I would say try it again, maybe open or copy the link and open it in another browser or something like that.
Yeah.
View to stuff. Thanks, Roger, for bringing this topic to the trades. Unfortunately, trafficking is everywhere. You're right. Having the conversation and making people aware is making a difference, even if it's just in one life.
100%. It's a parable of the starfish. You remember the boys throwing starfish back? You can't make a difference. Oh, yeah? I just made a difference to that one. So I love that comment.
Support the children of the country. Absolutely. Children of the world. Yes, indeed. And see, I started going through comments really quick and I got there. Imagine having enough money to not be on the list. That's pretty good. Working to the bone says forced labor is a big thing too, and we've talked about that. Right. Working to the bone. I just see your comment in here. We have talked about that. I've met plenty of Mexicans that were crossed illegally by coyotes. Said coyotes will call these people family and export them for money, or they'll never see them.
And that's really sad too. Everyone asks me what's happening on the border, and isn't it so sad that those kids who are on the border, they're the lucky ones because we know where they are. What about all the kids who probably lost their lives on their trek through Central America, Mexico, or are in criminal gangs, are forced into human trafficking? And it's just so sad. Our immigration policy, and I won't get too much in politics because it was Republicans and Democrats, no one's been able to solve this issue. But this idea of coming to the border to then be able to process your asylum claim over 6 weeks, 6 months, and just giving a notice to report, hey, just come back in 6 weeks, 6 months. Oh, yeah, sure, I'll come back. And you never see them again. We need to have asylum courts in the actual country of origin, adjudicate everything there, and then if they have a legitimate asylum claim, then we bring them over.
Yeah, in working to the bone, you're right. It's not just sex trafficking. It's the person at the nail salon, the person at the massage parlor. There's a lot of different places that these people end up. I want to take just a second and talk about Operation Underground Railroad. That's where you're from.
Yes.
I appreciate you being here today. We're running out of time. And thanks to everybody who donated. We raised $1,000 here. We raised $2,000 on a little video I made the other day. And guys, this video stays up. This link will stay up. We're not taking it down. Hopefully I come back here a year from now, it's raised 100,000. So we're going to leave this up. If you tried the link, it didn't work. Keep trying, copy it, paste it, go somewhere else. Will you tell everybody about the agencies, the connections, the websites, and the end? Operation Underground Railroad, OURrescue.org. Go there. You can learn everything. But man, this has been a great day.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And I agree here. It says, I used to like you and now I love you, Roger. I'm just always really have felt so grateful to know you. And thanks to you. Thanks to everyone who's tuned in here. And again, I will just say one last thing. There is something that each of us can do. So many people say, well, what can I do? Certainly after Sound of Freedom, if you haven't seen it, go see it. You won't regret it. Coming out of the movie, you'll probably, as you were too, is like, you feel a little icky, a little powerful, but also we can do something. You know before we do what you can do. Can you donate? Can you pray for us? Can you make connections with law enforcement? Or as we've talked about today, tradespeople. You are the ones who go to the front lines. If you see something, say something. Can you imagine if you have a chance to save a life? Anything else you do in your life will pale in comparison to raising a healthy family, being a good person, and saving a child.
I thought about that. The picture of Jim Caviezel holding the boy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, somebody said earlier, you know, what's this got to do with plumbers? Can you imagine being a plumber and you see something on the news tomorrow about these children that were saved, and it was because you walked in that house and you made a call and they went in? Guys, changing the world sometimes just starts by paying attention. And that's what we have the opportunity to do today. There's websites you can go to.
Yes.
Start with ourrescue.org. What are the other ones that we've talked about today that people need to know?
We've talked about netsmarts.org. Remember, there's a Z there, net, SMARTZ.org, and then kidsmarts.org, also with a Z. That's great. Polaris Project is a great one. The National Human Trafficking Hotline. But again, we have some of those resources, ourrescue.org. We also have education programs, Speak Up, Be Safe, subs, Stop Trafficking. We can get into schools. Roger has my contact information. If you'd ever like me to come speak to your school, your church, your place of business, your place of work, Rotary Club, community, anything. It's all about empowering. It's all about educating. Once you see, you can't unsee. So all the people who've been on here live stream, I think we were up to 80 at one point. It's amazing. Once you know, you can't unknow. That's our motto. And thank you so much. I'm just so grateful that you've, talked about Operation Underground Railroad and given us this important platform today.
Oh no, this is good. Remember, guys, 888-3737, 888. You can talk to them. Contact Operation Underground Railroad. Save the link. Come back to it. Try it again. Whatever you need to do. The link's not going away. We're going to leave it up there. We're going to have it up there on both videos, and we're even going to put it on the podcast. Now, I put the link to the Trade Talks in there earlier. Guys, this is the other YouTube channel. Click over on it because this podcast will be out next Wednesday. We're trying to get it out to get people's attention. So hopefully they can still catch the movie in the theaters. But I want to say a special thanks to Tim Ballard doing what he did, getting this whole thing started. Matt walking away from the CIA, a cushy, comfy job to go to work saying, well, you might get paid, you might not. But it's neat having you on here.
Thank you.
What y'all are doing is amazing. You're changing a lot of lives. So thanks. And God, Sage and Tony Robbins, to number one, prayer like that, where you call people, look, I'm praying for you. And they're like, look, I need it right now. Mm-hmm. It's a big deal. So thank y'all for everything you do. It really is good.
Thank you so much.
Matt, thanks for being here, brother. We
Love
need
it.
to do it again.
Yeah.
All right. Guys, thank y'all for all your donations. I do appreciate it. Share this with somebody. You know people that are in the trades. Share it to your feeds, your Facebook, your LinkedIn, your Instagram, wherever. You know people in the trades that need to see this. Man, what if somebody you shared this with made a change in the world? It can be that good. So, guys, thank you very much. I will see y'all next time.